you have this conflicting, your heart saying one thing, your brain's telling you another, and you just don't know which way to go. And that's this form of abuse is so sinister. It's like putting a computer virus in a child's head, and it just doesn't function normally. My name is Amanda Sillars. I'm the founding director of the Eeny Meeny Miny Mo Foundation. We are a health services and advancing education charity specialised in parental alienation.
All right, and how long has this been going on? And well, tell us a little bit more about it.
Yeah, well, it actually comes from my own background, being a child taken away from my mum at the age of 11 until 18, and I was manipulated to believe that my mum was a bad person and that my dad was my saviour. And as a result of me returning and trying to find my mum, I was a manipulated child, and I thought that she was, a bad person. And when I did, a part of me wanted to meet, see her, because you got this suppressed memories, and wanting to connect with her. And then when I did, I had, a bit of an attitude and stuff like that, and I didn't realise what she'd been going through. She'd been emotionally, financially and socially tortured by my dad, and she ended up committing suicide. And years later, when I had children and I separated, I actually chose a partner very much like my own father, who fit the traits of a personality disorder parent, narcissistic personality disorder. And I had children with him, and after separation, I found myself being misrepresented to people, and I found allegations were being made about me, and everything good I did was being turned into something bad. I didn't quite, understand what was going on until a therapist said to me, this is a textbook parental alienation case. And instantly I thought, what is parental alienation? I knew what alienation kind of was, but the parental alienation, I started Googling, and there was nothing in Australia apart from one website that had a few little definitions of what it was. And then I started connecting with people in America, like Amy Baker, Demosthenes Lorandos, William Burnett, all the people who are experts in parental alienation. And I decided to start a support group. And it just started growing and growing, and it's a gender-neutral support group. We support mums and dads experiencing parental alienation. And then I decided to start an organisation, and we just recently, in September 2015, became registered as we're called ACNC charity. Yeah, so now we can actually apply for government funding to help support parents and also to educate the public at large.
Oh. So what brings you to the ICMI here in the Gold Coast?
What it is because I've been working on the forefront of parental alienation, and we're supporting mums and dads, I'm finding that there's very lack of support for men out there, and I'm hearing the extremities that parents are going to erase the other parent out of the child's life. And we've had a number of suicides, male suicides, and we've had a number of teenage boys that have suicided who have tried to reunite with their father after being isolated for many years. And it's a form of abuse that's not being recognised as a very sinister form of abuse, because all they see is a child rejecting a parent, but they don't look deeper at why this child is actually rejecting the parent.
In your experience, do you feel like this alienation more often affects men, or is it pretty even?
Because we're dealing with mental health, I see it impacting men and women, but I see it on a much higher scale of men. I'm seeing unfairness in the family court systems happening with both, and it's because there's people that aren't specialised in this form of abuse that are not diagnosing these cases, and they don't know how to handle these cases. So they think, trying methods like reunification and stuff like that, while leaving the child in that custodial parent's care, they think that, let's try and reunite them. That does not work. You need to take the child completely out that environment so they're no longer under pressure, and put them into the parent's care who's being alienated and misrepresented. And but yeah, I'm seeing it on a very high scale of men.
Yeah, I guess the next question would be why would you say that it affects men more from what you understand?
I guess my experience is that a lot of women are are at home looking after the children, and it's usually, you know, the men are usually often working full-time jobs supporting them and that side of things. It's often the parent who gets in there first. So usually, in most cases, it's the woman who has the child in their care. So it's, you know, making false allegations of abuse or bad parenting or even sexual abuse. It's easier to make a claim against a man of sexual abuse, that you've sexually abused your children, than it is women. It's more believable to say a man has. And we see a lot of cases are false claims of sexual abuse, although even though it's been proven false, there's no evidence and the children are just parroting what the mother or father is saying.
So even though we're in a completely different continent, this is Australia, and, would you say that the issues with family court, with parental rights and all that are pretty much comparable to the way they are in the UK, Canada, and the United States?
Absolutely, very much the same. We're seeing the same problems. I mean, I'm in the international support group where there's 28,000 parents in that group. The same tactics are being used, the same results are being, you know, when they're trying to do reunifications and not putting protective orders in place to stop that parent from contacting the child during reunification. I can see that problem as well. I can see people who are doing the single expert reports, they are not educated in it. Often they're getting even people who are experts in addictions or drugs, you know, and they're getting them, you know, people like that doing single expert reports on children who are being manipulated by a parent. So there's a big problem, you know, it's not regulated on who can be called in as a single expert witness.
Right, so this is like corruption that's...
And there's a lot of corruption as well.
Yeah.
You get a lot of people who are connected. You'll have psychologists that are well connected with the lawyers, you'll have lawyers well connected with the judges. And we have people who have investigated and followed people here in Australia, and you can actually see them sitting down having lunches and dinners with people who are involved in the same case, you know.
Do you think that this issue with alienated parents, is this like a growing problem in this part of the world? Like,
Absolutely.
And what are the kind of like other effects, like the social or cultural issues that come out of that?
Yeah, well, I guess I often look back and I look at, you know, our grandparents. They had one job, one relationship their whole life. And then you look at the next generation, divorces sort of came into play, having multiple children with multiple relationships. And then you've got this impact that's happening down here and it's expanding. So you've got some of this complex trauma, like, you know, some of the trauma that children have, you know, grown up without a parent, that's affecting, you know, the relationship that they have and so on, the children that they have and so on. So it's just getting wider and wider. And there's not enough research into this to see the impact that it's having. You know, this transgenerational trauma that's just going through the generations.
Yeah, the cycle, it's like a cycle.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and just like it happened to myself, it happened to me as a child, it happened to me with my own children, and I'm seeing patterns happening with who my son is associated to. He's used to being manipulated, he's used to being influenced, he tends to attract very narcissistic type personalities, and I've had to really teach him how to put down boundaries and how to use critical thinking, and most of all follow his heart, you know. Yeah.
What are some of the, I guess, effects of this sort of, you know, these children that are growing up with a parent missing, and then the one that they're being raised by, you know, could be manipulating them or sort of using them as a tool to punish their ex-spouse or what have you? Like, do you know what some of the cultural effects are of that?
I know a lot of the impact it has on the child is where the child is being taught how to distort, how to manipulate, how to lie, how to influence, how to, you know, blow things out of proportion, you know, and often it's for self-gain.
Yeah.
You know, so if you see a child doing, you know, those sort of, you know, having that sort of behaviours, I mean, it's, and what they can do to others and have no empathy, you know, to emotionally and socially and, you know, to destroy someone. You see the school bullying. You know, I often think that a lot of these children that are bullying, it makes me wonder what's actually going on at home, because this is a learned behaviour. You know, children don't naturally hate, you know, unless they're being taught. Yeah, so it has a big impact on their emotional development.
And also, I guess, based on what you were just saying about your own son, it also makes it harder for them to know what good qualities are in a potential partner.
Absolutely.
Maybe they, you know, become a bit codependent or what have you, like things like that. Is that?
Yeah, wanting to please. That's a big thing that I see, is the children just having this wanting to please and, you know, worried about being rejected. You know, because that's what happens in parental alienation. They're just pleasing that parent because they see how emotional they get when they spend time with the other parent or they talk positive about the other parent. They see that it displeases them, so, you know, they don't want to see them sad. You know, so they're just trying their best to do what they can to keep that parent happy. And they'll do that in relationships as well. And I've experienced that myself. I've had some, I won't go too much into it, but I've had some shocking relationships as a result of my own experiences.
And those relationships, without getting too much into it, would you say that that's related to the way that you know, your growing up without, you know, your mother and the way your father?
Yeah, it was growing up without a parent, because you've got to have that balance of mum and dad. It's really important to have mum and dad.
Yeah.
You know, and I guess it's when you're growing up with a parent that doesn't have empathy, and they just want to use you to hurt the other parent, you know, it's, yeah, I mean, I'm always quite an empathic person because I always wanting to care for people and stuff like that, but I was brought up by someone who, if someone was overweight or they weren't really, really good looking, or if they didn't have money and all that sort of stuff, you kind of wrote them off. So anyone that was less than perfect, you wrote them off, which is a really bad thing to teach. You know, really bad thing to teach children, you know. And I could see that one part of me would have empathy for that person and the other part's going, oh, well, this and this and that. And it's like I'd have arguments in my head, and that's part of the manipulation you have. It's kind of like when a wave comes in, you get the backwash. You have this conflicting, your heart saying one thing, your brain's telling you another, and you just don't know which way to go. And that's this form of abuse is so sinister. It's like putting a computer virus in a child's head, and it just doesn't function normally. You've got to reinstall empathy, you know, you've got to reinstall, you know, being kind and, you know, all that sort of stuff. It's
yeah. What have you? Is this your first time coming to a men's conference?
Yes. Oh, actually, no. I spoke at the Stop Male Suicide last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And what has your experience been with that in relationship to what you do, especially with the ICMI this year as well?
I'm seeing that there needs to be a lot more education in what I'm doing to help dads. I also obviously see it in women as well, but more so in men, because there's so many more men that are being isolated from their kids and that have restraining orders taken out on them, and they can't even give them a birthday card. You know, they can't even ring them up to say happy birthday. They can't even send someone else on behalf of them to send a present. You know, so it's like our government is choosing less love, you know, less community, less support, you know, for their kids. And I see so many men suffering and struggling. I mean, I'm in the forum as much as I can. I'm a volunteer trying to help these parents cope, and there's just not enough specialised support out there for men in this industry.
Oh, well, I mean, those are all really great answers. Is there anything that you want to tell us that we didn't ask, perhaps? Or any questions you have?
Yeah, I think it's, I guess, you know, our organisation is wanting to collaborate with other people, whether it's locally or internationally, to bring about change in these areas. Whether it's, you know, regulating single expert witnesses, whether it's creating panels of experts to, you know, diagnose these cases, or whether it's, you know, support groups for parents. You know, so I always share my resources. I have a public page, which is Amanda Sillars, and then we also have the Eeny Meeny Miny Mo Foundation page, which I share a lot of the resources, internationally. You know, because it breaks my heart seeing so many people struggling, and there are no positive outcomes or solutions at the moment. You know, so we've got to get this recognised as psychological abuse of the child and of the parent, and in some cases be recognised as torture. because it is torture.
Yeah.
Yeah.